Hello, everybody. Today is Monday, the 12th of May, 2025. You have joined the Kubeflow Model Registry bi-weekly call. This meeting is being recorded, and this meeting adheres to the CNCF Code of Conduct. Thanks again for joining, all of you for joining us today. The meeting usually runs through an agenda, but everybody is free to add an agenda item. So typically I collect this one from what I can observe in Slack, but don't hesitate to add any item that you think are worthy to keep track and discuss. So without further ado, I'll just jump right into the points that we need to keep track of. There is a high-level Kubeflow CNCF graduation task. I don't know if Milos wanted to share any specific update beyond what we discussed in the previous time, if there are any news worthy of consideration.
As far as I know, there's no some specific news. But okay, I'll make my best to get any info. The next, like, I think next week we have this call, so we'll know more then. But this is something, yeah, we need to do in order to, like, the goal is to graduate. Like, it's time. Almost it's already 2 years that the Kubeflow is in incubation phase, and now we need to graduate. It's very important for the whole community.
Yeah, thank you, Milos. Absolutely agree. There are a few items that we can start to work right on. So one is also, Milos, thank you again for raising about the badge tracker for best practices for open source project. Thanks as well for Paul for having added the badge at the very beginning. Just as a reminder, there is a tracker item that we are using for at least these graduations as well. So feel free if you see any of the new sub items, if you wanted to work on it, you're more than welcome to assign it to yourself and sort of like drive it. The badge currently, we were able to sort of like move the needle from the 19%, which was the one that we had at the very beginning. I think that now should be over, 34%. I think that actually I have an action item that I will complete later, so we'll just bump it right on. Typically, the questions are indeed added to that tracker item. So it's easier to coordinate on GitHub if you want to start a conversation with other fellow contributor. And we can for sure start hammering on this item right away. Then there will be other requests that may come from the KSC. As Milos has mentioned, every Tuesday bi-weekly, there is this graduation call, and things will be sort of like followed up from there. I have another item later to that speaks to some point about this one, and we will go through it. For the Kubeflow, so I think that a PR has been merged about apply iconography description, color palette, and page sections. I don't know if Jenny or Eder wanted to add any specific comments towards those.
I have nothing specific to add. I think just I think it would be nice to, I guess, follow up with the folks in the community over there and ask them about the progress, and then see how we can work together on creating an icon that fits with the Kubeflow standards and also combines our Patternfly best practices. Yeah, Eder, is there anything that you'd like to add there?
No, that's it. And remember that what with the logo that we merged, that there's a placeholder, and just for us to move on until we have the official logo.
Sounds good. So yeah, I'll check in with Andre and Francisco over there, and see what direction we can take there.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. I'll just, before I forget, just copy the Slack thread on the CNCF Slack if people are interested. All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for the update also over there. For speaking of graduation task, another thing that was asked is to add an adopters file. So this is now landed in the repository. The reason I bring it up here is that we need contributions from adopters that may be even just experimenting or testing with the Kubeflow Model Registry. So if you are having any engagement in the CNCF Slack or in other channels with people that are testing out with Model Registry, don't hesitate to sort of like asking them to consider adding their name. Of course, that is totally up to the user to decide whether to do so. But I think that asking is at least one thing that can be really important to do. We have also merged in the upstream Kubeflow community to the main adopters. Oops. So it means that if you go to Kubeflow community adopters, now we are in this item as well that was raised by the KSC that we need an action item. And here there are as well some organizations that are sort of like promoting themselves for adopters of the whole Kubeflow platform. So just something to keep in mind. Sorry if I will repeat this message, but it's really important, and as well it tracks to adopters. I see a raised hand, Dinesh.
Yeah, Matteo, just a reminder, right? It has to come with the approval of the adopter company, right? We can't just, like, if somebody is just interacting with some customer, they can't just add the name there, right?
Oh yes, so it's important that the person that belongs to the organization, we don't add it for them. We don't add a line from them. It's like the person that are using. Typically, what I point is that if I see a community user that is writing using Model Registry, I point them to say, hey, please consider adding yourself to this list.
Right.
So very important that we don't sort of like add it on behalf of another person or organization. That's the reason why there is as well a line that specifies it's the same adopters format for the others, the person in GitHub, so that they can be reached as well. Yeah, very good call. Thank you, Dheeraj. All right. If there are no more questions about that item, we can move on to the model catalog API. I think that Paul added this item. So I think also, Paul, if you want to go ahead and share the screen in case, or let me know what I should display.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. I don't have much to show. It's just the ticket 702. So Dheeraj actually opened this back in January for the model catalog. But we've been doing a little bit more work on it, and so we just this is just kind of a status update and kind of an overview of the proposed architecture, so we can hopefully get some feedback on it. If anyone is not familiar, like the goal of the model catalog is just kind of to help people find models from external sources or possibly internal ones, and so they can register them easier in Model Registry. Like, that's the main idea. So, I mean, this part here is just for an API. Like, it'll be kind of an aggregator of catalog sources. So the proposed architecture here, like, we're going to have a model catalog service. This is going to be distinct from Model Registry. It's kind of the way that we've done like the CSI and controller already, so that this would be a separate deployment. Like, it wouldn't have any Model Registry APIs in it. It would just be for the catalog. The sources would come out of a catalog source config map here. And obviously, like, Hugging Face and pretty much every external API is going to need secrets. So, for authentication tokens and things. So the administrator would need to set up this config map and any secrets that they need. And that would be enough for Model Catalog to start aggregating sources from external providers. Yeah, there's, like, at a high level, there's really not a ton to this. So, I mean, there's not that much to say about it really. Like it's an API that's going to pull from probably Hugging Face and an internal YAML file for like organizations that have a bunch of their own models and they want to just give people easy access to them. We can look at some other sources, but I mean, I think Hugging Face seems to be the big one. So that's definitely a high priority. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, are there questions or? Yeah, Ramesh.
On the Hugging Face one, are you limiting to a namespace there, Paul? What's the thinking around as to how much exposure we are going to give? Obviously, we don't want to bring in
Yeah, so
lots of models there.
Yeah, there are a lot of models there. I mean, I think we should be able to post. I mean, we're not like copying them all, but yeah, we can limit it by like a specific organization.
Yeah.
Yeah. Besides that, yeah, actually, maybe we need to step back. The model catalog is going to be stateless. Remember, notice that there is no storage there, so we are not even like starting with caching or anything at this point. We can start. This is just going to be the first version. A completely stateless service that fetches information for YAML file-based catalog. That's not an issue because it's just a YAML file. We can cache it in memory there. That will be in the implementation of the YAML catalog source. For Hugging Face, it's going to be stateless. It's not going to cache anything. The API supports paging, so will not like fetch all of Hugging Face by accident ever. So we should probably have like a hard-coded limit as well, Paul. I don't think we're mentioning that in the proposal anywhere, right? Like not more than 100 models or something, right? Just as a safety limit, so we don't blow up the memory usage. Besides that, for the Hugging Face catalog, we'll also add filter. We should add filter capability so that then. And it should be flexible so that it's not just like limited to this, org or something like that. It could be, some kind of a query string that Hugging Face API supports. So they could point it to, certain models with certain tags or certain kinds of models or something like that, right? Just as a reminder that this is an upstream project and component. So there could be different ways, use cases in which users could use it. So have to keep it flexible. Yeah, bless you.
Given that in this architecture there is another binary for the model catalog, are we gonna have UI and Python clients just for this model catalog, or we should reuse one on Model Registry?
I'm not sure whether it's going to be another binary actually. Like the initial PR that I had started for the implementation of this service was using the same, kind of main and stuff, but as had a separate command. So we could just add another command in the Model Registry implementation, implement the same API in the Model Registry binary. So we don't have to worry about like, creating another Docker image and stuff like that. But just like we have, one command to start the Model Registry, we could have another command to start the catalog service. So we could, leverage all the existing infrastructure, but the binary just runs either in, Model Registry mode or catalog. Otherwise, we'll have to potentially maybe create another project or at least another, Docker image, and all that, right?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking we'd put it as another binary, but I don't know. I'm not married to that idea. It's just that we did that for CSI controller, and that seemed like the pattern to follow. But really doesn't make much difference to me. It would be easier to not make another binary.
Maybe one thing to check there is if at all we do the same binary, would we be subject to the same security, right, as Model Registry? Obviously, Model Catalog need same level of security. It should be accessible to any user.
Right. So the service implementation is not the one that's doing the service. Yeah. So because it's coming from like the Istio configuration in upstream, we could have a different Istio configuration for a manifest for the catalog service that only looks for like authenticated users. That's it.
In that case, it's make it whatever is easy for you. Wow.
Yeah, I was looking for like the path of least resistance, right? Like baby steps, right? If we have a compelling reason that says, oh no, this has to be a separate binary and a Docker image and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if there is a reason for us to deploy this one,
right,
in other environments, I don't know. I mean, without even Model Registry itself is not that huge in my opinion. So,
and there are prioritization concerns downstream too, like prioritizing another binary and Docker image will take longer maybe. Product side. It's not a upstream Kubeflow concern. Still.
But it's definitely going to be another. The deployment architecture wise, it's going to be another.
Yeah,
process.
another deployment. Yeah, another set of manifests. But that's easier to manage if it's the same Docker image. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add to the point, the original point of Alessio, somehow the UI will need the different type of UI. So it's like the UI.
Yeah, you're not at that point yet.
Yeah, cannot be reused for model catalog because they serve different purposes. So to add that point, and actually thanks Heather added to the agenda item, indeed, that there is an intent to add the specific UI for this as well. If it is part of the same Docker image or is not the Docker image, I think this is more of an implementation detail. Another point that maybe sort of like it was maybe not touched upon, but sort of that I captured throughout your explanation, Paul and Dheeraj, is that catalog sources that are in the upper right, I understand that they are of, say, different types, which is good because it makes the solution flexible. But I also sort of like sense it that you are focusing first on like a static file, like a YAML or configuration file of sorts, and Hugging Face. Is this understanding correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, my plan was to start with the static YAML file just because it's easiest. We can work out the core API features before we, because we'll need different implementations completely for a static file versus Hugging Face. But we can get the basic API in there with a static file and save the complicated Hugging Face bits for later.
Fully agree. The only other thing that sort of like maybe it's worth considering to start earlier conversation on is that regardless again about implementation details, sort of like it is another Docker image, it is the same Docker image and started different ways. The only thing that sort of like I would raise to the attention is that since you want to deploy this one in the Kubeflow namespace, the main one for controllers, I would say, I'm not aware if there are any other specific services. So especially when dealing with the communication in between services, I will just give a heads up or a ring to the platform working group to say, hey, this is what we'll be working on. This is our intention going forward, so that at least if there are any like changes, because the reason why I mentioned so is that I remember that they there are some limitation about the user authenticated settings. I forgot what they wanted to do for Kubeflow. So it's just better to sort of like involve them and say, hey, please be aware, this is where we are marching towards for, so that at least we detect it early. And this actually, I think that is also plays to the other conversation that we're having about the default model registry installation. That is separate topic, but somehow similar. We cannot resolve it alone. We needed to do it with a platform working group. Ramesh, I see you have raised hand.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew. Maybe a question for Paul again. Since we are trying to see multiple catalog sources, is that a pluggable thing? Obviously, we can configure those. Seems like, is there an API? Like, if I want to bring in, say, ML flow for some reason, could I come in and Is there an API I can implement and point it out and configure that will show up?
I was not planning on making them external.
No, not
I mean,
not as a remote API, right? As a local API, a Go API that.
No, I mean,
somebody-
however, I mean, like Hugging Face is definitely a remote soap, right?
Yeah.
It has an. I meant to say that whether you could go directly implement in the model catalog itself, or you could define some kind of a
Okay, so
adapter API on top of it, so that I could come in and implement and pluggable.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know whether you guys, I mean, is that necessary or not? I'm just asking for.
No, we are not planning on making it remote. Not planning on making it a remote API at this point. That just makes the deployment complicated, right? Like then we'd have to figure out how to discover these APIs or something, or configure like the API endpoints, and then what about the security over this connection, right, between the model catalog and the catalog source and stuff, right? We have to secure that connection. So instead of that, it's just going to be a internal Go API. So fairly easy to implement. If you wanted to write a Go class that implements that to connect to MLflow, we could do that.
All right. Okay. At least
Does that meet the requirement? Yeah.
That should, I think, but
we'll document. Yeah. I think you got a point. Like we should document that API too. Then it's
absolutely. I mean, as long as there is a way for somebody to, just like YAML file, what you're saying, right? Hey, custom, the user can bring in their own YAML file. That's one way of doing it. But
right.
If they have
there's a lot of
dynamic source, if we provide an extension that they can somehow include it in the Kubeflow, or if they have a fork of model registry and they do it in theirs, right? That would be useful.
So we need to document. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, if you see, we can see if this becomes really, if you get to tens of these sources, then we can think about hanging a API on top of it later. Make it remote.
Like an open API one. And
I'm just throwing it. I don't even want to think that far.
Yeah. No, it's totally possible, but we need to document like the catalog source configuration. We will have to document, the YAML catalog format. We'll have to document, this Go API, pluggable API for creating new catalog sources and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. We will be for that one too later. Then. Okay. Thank you. Mitchell, go ahead.
Yeah, indeed. Actually, it's a good call if you can document how people can plug in their own type of catalog sources. I think that regardless if it is a REST API or a Go sort of like contract, sounds the way to have community engagement as well. Because then somebody can say, hey, in my company, I don't have MLflow, I don't have a Hugging Face, I have whatever. And sort of like that gives a path forward also for the catalog and not only Model Registry. Because in Model Registry, there is already kind of like a path forward for this, is the PR that Alessio worked on in the past that replaces kind of like the source of information for the underlying MLMD. So that layer of abstraction clearly separated the two parts. So if people wanted to do it for Model Registry, they can already do it for Model Registry. Having this option as well for Model Catalog, I think is a very good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can do that. But I mean, the plan right now, though, like it'll be a Go interface that they'll need to implement and send us a PR. Like there's no dynamic linking of things.
Sounds very good to me, Paul.
Okay.
The best way to get started, because maybe people, I mean, we will also see how much interest there is and actually what are the problems that they are facing with.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's a great way for the community to participate, like I was saying. We could have a, open API one, Anthropic one, whatever.
Fantastic. Are there any other questions about this topic that you want to bring to Paul? Looks no. Paul, thank you so much for the explanation. I think it's like this is very good. I will also try to mark it in the recording so that if people are interested, can reach you out to the pull request, sorry, to the GitHub issues and follow up on any other comments. All right, so very great. Here, indeed, noted, Eder mentioned that indeed the UI, we just mentioned about it. And what else? I think that there are no other action items that we logged. So I don't know if anybody has any last minute thing that they want to raise. Or otherwise, tomorrow, just a friendly reminder, there is the bi-weekly graduation call, if I counted correctly. Or anyway, there is a Tuesday meeting, either community or graduation. So you can join either of the two. So going once, going twice. All right. Thank you so much for your participation, and I will see you tomorrow or in 2 weeks. Bye.
Thank you, Matthew.
Right.